Hey, Scott from Aristocop.com here.
And Seth from theshrinkingpastor.com.
Together, the three of us, we are Markwood Men's Breakfast Club.
What in the world was that?
I misfired. Morning, boy.
Hey, good morning, Homer.
What you got there?
I have some Aaronmore Flake. Pipe tobacco.
So we
fruity
get to-
blend of Virginia and Burley tobaccos.
We get to practice the old pinch, poke, and pinch, twist, and poke method.
Yes, we do.
Very good. So, yeah, thank you.
Look at that. You
Nice.
need that whole thing?
Yeah, I need this whole thing. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't know how much you need. I don't know what you're smoking in.
Yeah, fold. I'm smoking in
Something that will take the whole thing?
Country Gentleman, absolutely.
All right.
The fold, poke, twist, and poke some more method.
Aha, put some more.
Yeah, the challenge with this, and it's the challenge I always face, I don't like to crumble it up or to rub it out, as they say. And so it's often a struggle to get it started, but man, once it gets going, there's nothing will put this out. I love it.
Short. It ends up being...
Like a cigar at that point.
Yeah, you skip the kindling and go straight to the tinder.
So go ahead and
What I'm
talk for the
saying.
next 3 minutes while I get this thing lit.
All right. So we have been busy with the holidays.
Yeah.
Yep. Have been doing some travel. Have been doing all the normal family get-togethers, and looking forward. I don't usually look forward to that being over, but it's hard. So one
I
of
look
the things.
forward to the business travel being over for a little bit to actually get to enjoy the Christmas to New Year's period.
Yeah, one of the things that I one of the struggles I'm facing right now is with work. In that I've got a lot of travel and got to have a lot of things coming up in the new year, and I always find that in between period between like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, it's a little bit difficult to get into a good rhythm. Right when you find a rhythm, you're pulled out of it a little bit.
Yeah, right.
And so, on that end, I'm excited to get into it full steam. Being at the company for just a few months, I'm still trying to figure out what my long-term, I want to say rhythm again, but
Sure.
What that's going to be, what that's going to look like. And so it's a bit of a struggle trying to figure that out.
Well, yeah, until you get at least the year under your belt, you won't know what that feels like. In my industry, in the woodworking industry, things get really slow from December through to the beginning of January, and I do a lot of training in the month of December. I always have a few sales reps that they're struggling to make their sales goals, and so they don't want to be pulled out of their territories to do training. And I always will question them about the reality of, can you, the week before Christmas, close the gap on the shortage that you're having in sales, or would you be better off to get yourself prepared to hit the ground running in January? Inevitably, there's always people both sides of that, right? And I'm not there to argue for them to not shoot for their goals, but
It's like trying to go and win and close a sale Friday afternoon.
I've had some really great Fridays.
Have you?
Oh yeah, because there's no competition out on Friday.
That's true.
And especially if my approach is more casual and more listening, that has been a really good approach for folks. Because again, they don't expect you to be in there selling, and certainly not selling hard on a Friday.
That's
So
true. Good
people
point.
let their hair down a little bit on Fridays.
So maybe that's why some choose to hit the holidays.
Yeah. So I want to show you something.
All right, show me.
This is one of those. I'm going to show you something. It's one of those ISISes.
Do it.
We
might want to change that.
I know.
Now.
On my Mr. Tool Hunter channel, of which I think I've done one video this year. So be sure you're subscribed, because you really would hate to miss those. Over a year ago, I did a video on my favorite miter gauge, which is the Shopsmith miter gauge.
What is your favorite miter gauge?
It's like a corn cob, but they may not know it yet, but it's the Shopsmith miter gauge.
Oh.
Corn cobs are everybody's favorite pipe, whether they know it yet or not. Anyway, I love the Shopsmith miter gauge. It's awesome. It's got this adjustable stop for and hold down, and it's got a protractor that allows you to angle it at different angles. The challenge with this miter gauge has always been the scale on here where you set it is underneath this pistol grip. So you kind of have to, double eyeball this thing to make sure you're spot on. Now, fortunately, your 90 degree, 45 degree stops, your common angles, there are stops built in. There's a little plunger right here that you set, and with your initial setup, you can make this to where it's going to slide back to 90 every time. But if you want to do something that's an angle that's not 45 degrees or 90,
37.
That can be a challenge.
Yeah.
So there's a neat new product that's on the market now that I purchased recently called the MiterSet. And when you get it, it comes in this neat little box. If you are a Shopsmith user, you purchase this from Shopsmith. If you are any other tool user, you can purchase this directly from the manufacturer. I believe I can put a link to this below in the doobly-doo. But what this thing is there are two versions. Actually, there's 4 versions of this, but 2 that you might want to own. The first one is your standard angles, right? So 90 through 45, and the way you use this to set your miter gauge up is you've got these steel pins that go into these CNC machined holes, and you put your miter gauge into this slot, and with the protractor on your miter gauge loose, you slide that against those pins. So this is loose now. Wait a second, don't be doing that, moron.
That's not very nice.
Yeah. No, it's not. You slide it against those pins, you lock it down, and you're spot on the angles that you're looking for. Now, the version that gives you...
Are the pins supposed to come out with it?
Oh, that's a 2-sided tape that I have stuck on the face of my miter gauge.
You wouldn't want to drop those.
It's such a cold day here. It's going to peel it off, and they're tenacious. Anyway, there's 2 versions of this, as I mentioned. One of these has the angles, the actual angles set on it, and there's a little metal bar that allows you to get the angles in between those angles, the minute angles. I thought that was interesting, but I like this version of it a little bit better for myself. Now, what you'll see on that scale is a bunch of numbers. Number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 20. Don't know where 19 went. I think I got ripped off.
Or 1 through 3.
And what you can do is you can take this pin and leave that in its little home base where you had it for 90 degrees. And I'm going to put this one over in 11. And now with my miter gauge loose, brought up to those pins and locked in place, maybe I'll slide it out so I don't take the things with me. I have no idea what that angle is, but guess what that angle will give me? An
11 degree cut.
An 11-sided frame. So if I want to make staves, if I'm doing something called brick laminating, where I'm going to turn a bowl that's made up of a whole bunch of pieces that are mitered together, I just select the number of sides I want my thing to be, and this will set my miter gauge for exactly that setting. And an 11 degree or 11-sided object is going to be somewhere in the 73 degree, no, that looks like it's 67 degree angle. But it's probably 67.3 degree angle. It's going to be some odd angle. And I can set this to where my miter gauge is tilted left or tilted right, depending upon your setup and which slot you're cutting in. You can set it either direction. This is stuff he doesn't know. If you're a woodworker, it's stuff that you get. The back of this has got a non-slip, smushy, cushy thing, so it sits on your workbench or your tool without scratching your tool surface up, and comes in a great case. It's a little expensive, but it's the last one you're ever going to buy. I mean, this thing is made to be permanent, and it's called the MiterSet. The 4 versions, okay? 2 of them are the one that I bought with the number of sides. 2 of them are the angle version, right, with the degrees of angle. 1 of them is made for every miter slot, miter gauge bar, but Shopsmith, and the other 2 are then for the Shopsmith. Shopsmith has a unique proprietary bar on their miter gauge and in all their tools. People complain about that. Why isn't it the standard? Because they started in 1947. They started before there ever was a standard. And so they picked a dimension that turns out they're the only ones that had. So anyway, it's a really cool tool. The guy that invented this used to make this out of, I don't know, it was particle board or MDF or something like that. And the gentleman who makes these now approached that guy and basically purchased the rights to produce it, and then put the money into creating this beefier, probably more accurate, maybe not more accurate, but again, lifetime investment. This thing cost me $70 plus shipping, so it's not a cheap investment, but I've wasted $70 on worse things, right, son?
Handsomely.
I love this case.
Why doesn't it do 3 segments?
A triangle,
Yes.
because I can do that without this.
And how would you do that?
Set my miter gauge for, what is it, 60 degrees or something like that?
Yeah.
There you go. I just set my miter gauge for 60 degrees.
So 4 segments is 45 degrees. Can't you do that?
Yes. I told you that the common angles are easy enough. I can use various squares. I have 90-degree squares. I have 45-degree squares.
Right.
And those are going to be the vast majority of things I'm going to do. I made a series of molds for a guy that was making Tiffany-style lampshades. And he needed to have these basswood molds. They look like giant bells. And I remember on one of them, and basically I had to cut. If I had made it out of a solid block of basswood, which is a carving wood, it's not a real super heavy wood, but the challenge is if that expands and shrinks, which wood will do, while he was in the process of laying up and soldering his stainless or his stained glass on this, that's what these molds were used for, then it could have been a disaster, possibly not be able to get his pieces off or have them shift on him. He had been using styrofoam molds, and the styrofoam molds are one-time use. When you go into solder, you're melting the styrofoam. And the other issue that he had with that was they're only available in so many styles, very common styles,
Right.
but he wanted to do some of the more rare Tiffany lampshades. So he had me make 3 of these that were super huge. And one of them I had 386 miters to cut that had to all be accurately cut to make these rings that that I put together. And that was an interesting mathematic challenge, which I don't need because I don't do math. And but
Now you would just Google it, though.
but they came out great. I got to say, I was really pleased by these giant wooden bells.
Yeah.
But that raised a desire in me to have something that would make it easier to accomplish a task like that.
Yeah.
And so when I saw this, Izzy Swan talked about this.
Or she did.
There's a MiterSet channel too that on YouTube where you can watch and get some details there as well. But anyway, it's a cool tool.
It is
Those
cool.
of you that desire to make
Shapes.
miters beyond 90 and 45.
Circles.
Yeah, absolutely. You can make circles.
Octagons and pentagons and other shape geometric figures.
Except for 9-sided figures.
No, 9 is fine. 19
19.
and 3, I prefer the 2-sided variety myself.
So like ripping on the table saw, basically, is what you're after.
Yeah. Did you, speaking of Izzy Swan, did you see his invention that he made a video about recently?
Of course I did, for driving nuts onto threaded rods. Brilliant idea.
Really smart.
But he's gone on, he has a second channel, I don't know if you know this. Probably has. He probably has more than that. But he has a channel that he hosts conversations with entrepreneurs. And he admitted that when he launched that product, he kind of launched it to the wrong audience. I mean, he wanted to share and celebrate with his audience, but his audience are mostly woodworkers.
Right.
And that is not a woodworking tool unless you're building drill-powered dinosaurs like Izzy does.
Right.
But he'll find his market. I mean, there is a market out there. People that hang drop ceilings, people that are putting in sprinkler systems will use threaded rods to suspend them from from beams and things like that. And to have to drive nuts on that would drive you nuts.
The invention essentially lets him attach a drill. Imagine almost a figure eight. You can attach the drill here, and it drives here, and the part that's actually doing the driving is hollow, so you can drive a nut all the way down or up a rod.
It's a through and through socket.
Yep.
So you can fit any size socket on that, and then drive nuts. It'll drive you nuts.
Yep.
He did an interesting demonstration where he had some blocks with different varying lengths of threaded rod in it, and he, using a wrench, drove the nuts down, and then side by side using, I believe it was trickery, maybe he does have a clone, using his tool on the other one, and he had plenty of time to stand around and watch his clone work.
Yeah.
Using his neat little wrench.
Yep. It's cool.
It is cool, and like I said, he's going to find an audience for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be successful and pretty. I'm impressed by Izzy anyway, but I love it when any entrepreneur can see an idea through to completion. It's always better when they're successful with it.
Right.
You know, build a better mousetrap, and the world does not beat a path to your door. Marketing is a critical last step to that.
Right.
But it all does start with a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
So, congratulations, Izzy, on a great idea.
Nice mousetrap.
Very nice.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Guys, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for joining us for Tobacco Advent. Hope you're enjoying that, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Later.